was fairly sure Mrs. Gold wasn't actually just a typist, like she claimed, because I'd seen her with some very important-looking papers, and she was often away for long periods of time. But I didn't argue. Instead, I waved as she hurried off up the garden path towards the kitchen, where I could see Mr. Gold making tea. I'd not even heard him get up and leave the shelter. I'd been sleeping so deeply. Still feeling slightly snoozy, I went up the side passageway round the side of the Gold's house and out onto the front street. We had a side door out to the back garden, but I liked to go in at the front after a night in the shelter. I liked to see what had happened while we were safely tucked away at the bottom of the garden. Now I marvelled again, as I seem to every morning, at the resilience of London and its people. It was just like a normal day, if you pretended you couldn't smell the smoke in the air and see the rubble at the corner where last night's raid had taken out 3 whole houses and half of the Evans family's home in the street next to ours, leaving their living room sliced clean in 2. A bus rumbled past, more normality, even though it was covered in dust, and I stepped back to avoid being splashed as it drove through a puddle, and then I headed up our path, feeling in the pocket of my coat for my key so I could let myself into our maisonette. "Nell!" I shouted, bending down to pick up the post from the doormat. "In the kitchen," she called. I took off my coat and hung it from the bottom of the banister, then went to find Nellie. She was sitting in a chair in the kitchen, still wearing her outdoor clothes, with her face streaked with dirt and her eyes red with tiredness. "Letter for you," I said, handing it over. She took it and glanced at the front, then dropped it onto the table. "Bad night?" "Just never ending," she sighed. "I need to go to bed, but I'm running on adrenaline." "I'll make you tea," I said. I filled up the kettle and lit the hob with a match. "Why don't you have a bath? See if that relaxes you." Nellie shook her head. "Too much effort," she said. "I'll have my tea, and then I'll have a wash and go to bed." She frowned at me. "You should get your head down later if you're on nights now." "I'm going to work early to help with the blankets," I said. We had a bewildering lack of blankets at the hospital, and it seemed to be a full-time job to sort them out and allocate them to wards. I'd heard friends at other hospitals talk about nurses going into bomb sites and taking them. We'd not got to that stage yet, but I sometimes thought it wasn't far off. "Aren't you going to read your letter?" Nellie sighed. "No point. I know what it says." "How can you know if you've not read it yet?" "Because my mammy writes the same thing every time," she said. "She tells me how it's so peaceful in Dublin, and you'd barely know there's a war on, and Dr. Connolty says there's a job for me at the Sisters of Mercy Hospital whenever I want one." I grinned at her. "Maybe this time she's written to say you're doing a grand job here in London and you should stay as long as you want." Nellie laughed. "Maybe." "She's just worried about you," I said softly. Even though Nell's mother sounded overbearing and fussy, I knew it was because she loved her daughter, and I envied Nellie's family connections. She had brothers and sisters all over Ireland and relatives in America, and she was always getting letters, and once, thrillingly, a parcel from her sister in New York with stockings and a lipstick inside. I'd got the occasional note from Billy, of course. And then I'd got the telegram. And now I got nothing. Nellie got up from the chair with a groan. "I'm going to sleep," she said. She leaned forward and kissed me on the cheek. "I'll see you later." "You will." I waited until she'd gone into her bedroom, and then I took the letter from her mum and put it in the drawer in the sideboard, where I put all the other envelopes that came from her home that she didn't open. I knew Ireland wasn't involved in the war, and that Nellie's mammy was safe in that way. But I also knew bad things happened in wartime too, and that perhaps Nellie would want to see her mother's handwriting one day, and read her caring words. I could really do with a bath myself, but I didn't have time if I was going to help with the blankets before my shift started. I settled with a proper wash in my bedroom, even though the water was cold.